Election Day is just 31 days away, and in about 30 seconds, you will hear the perspective of some of our panel of journalists about the races, the candidates, and the politics of this election season. That's next on NewsNite. Good evening. This is NewsNite for October 5th. I'm Jody Miller. You know, Election Day is 1 month and 1 day away. Early voting has already started here in the state of Ohio, and if you are not yet registered to vote, you still have 4 days to do so. Well, given the politics of the season, we wanted to reconvene our NewsNite panel of journalists and talk about the races and the issues that you're going to see on the ballot. I want to welcome Steve Hoffman, editorial writer and political writer from the Akron Beacon Journal.
Thank you.
Stephanie Warsmith, government writer covering Akron City Council and the Board of Elections, and also first place award winner with the Ohio Society of Professional Journalists for government reporting. Congratulations, Steph.
Thank you.
And again, the inimitable Ed Esposito.
You know, it's deja vu all over again, being here with you, except they still haven't fixed the air conditioning.
Well, you know what? That's okay. That's
I'm
okay.
dying here. Can I get some ice in this water? Do I have to have my agent call for residuals?
Ed, we're so glad to have you back. You know, you always bring such vim and vigor to the panel.
Sunshine.
Yes, sunshine is right.
I'm here to help, Jody.
Well, thank you. I want to start with the state, okay? And I guess I want to start with Secretary of State John Husted, who has been in the news over the past several months for a variety of reasons. And he's instituted common hours, uniform hours in state boards of election around the county and the country, or the state, for early voting. And talk about the early voting and what this is going to mean to voters in the state.
It was a slam dunk yesterday in Summit County, and we're taping this on Wednesday, but for the first day of early voting, they had over 1,000 show up. They didn't have any problems at Grant Street. It wasn't you didn't need an old H.H. Gregg to do it. It seemed to be manageable. And that was double about what they had 2008. So I think if that's any indication, along with the number of people who asked for absentee ballots, I think people are getting the idea right now that they can vote early, and it's a lot more convenient.
Yeah, early voting has been a popular option. It has helped eliminate crowding on Election Day. That's why it was instituted after the 2004 election. It hasn't really increased turnout substantially, especially in the large urban counties where you think it would. But it is a great convenience. The other thing that the Secretary of State Husted has done, which is a first, is to send out to every voter in the state an absentee ballot application. So this is an opportunity for people to vote in their living room or kitchen table.
Or bathroom.
That
may be a more appropriate place to vote this election.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. But
literally.
So all you have to do is, fill it out, send it back in, and the Board of Elections sends you a ballot.
Right.
So we'll see how that works. Other states, there are a few states that have gone to voting by mail exclusively. So we'll see. I think it'll be popular. I think it'll be a popular
Well, already
thing.
You've seen 922,000 people mail those absentee requests back in the state, and nearly 100,000 in our area. It's probably up over that because that was from a tally that I got last week. 100,000 people in just the Akron-Canton area have mailed those requests back in. So I do think that as people are expected, that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be voting in that way, using that option
Well,
this
if
time.
you think about how extraordinary that is, I mean, Ohio's a state of 8 million people, and almost 1 million of them want an absentee ballot. So that's either they want something to take to the polls with them because they want to see who it is they're voting ahead of time in their district, which they could just download off the web, or they really just want to, maybe they wait until the last minute and drop it in the mail and they know for sure it's done.
Yeah, the other thing we should mention is this lawsuit, which Stephanie has written about extensively, mainly spearheaded by the Obama campaign, against really seeking to overturn a very convoluted legislative action which ended early in-person voting on the 3 days right before Election Day. So far, the federal judge, economist, has ruled that 3-day period should be restored. The Secretary of State, the Attorney General are appealing, so this is still, kind of in limbo. But clearly, the closer you get to Election Day in terms of early voting, the heavier the turnout is. And this has been a big fight. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, the arguments are very complicated, but basically it boils down to whether the legislature acted properly in closing off that period at I believe 6 p.m. on Friday before election.
That's when it is right
now. Well, and is it a case of the boards of election being better prepared for the influx of voters on election day, and that's why they needed the time, or is it a money issue?
Well, that was the argument that the elections officials, the organization that represents them, that they were using and asking for the change, because they said otherwise what they have to do is they have to, whenever voting stops at, I think it's 6 o'clock on Monday, then they have to print out a supplemental absentee report and get that to all of the poll workers all over the county, and then that way they know who is voted absentee right up until the deadline. And so they're saying, you know, they were asking the legislature for that change. But I do think that there's some politics involved here, as there is in just about anything that happens election.
Well, there's a ton of political strategy involved with early voting. I mean, it tends to favor Democrats more than Republicans. There's also a lot of big city voting patterns and strategy that involves political racial strategy, because black churches notoriously, or by design, will have a big voter push at the end. So, having people go to vote on that last weekend beforehand, that was one of the opposition points for the Obama campaign, is that you're disenfranchising voters because you're telling them that they can't vote in person on that last day. So, or those last days to do that you have to wait until that. So it does change the makeup of the political strategy you use for your own get out the vote.
Yeah, the Bliss Institute has put out a study on early voting, and it clearly indicates that early voters tend to be Democratic, election day voters tend to be Republican. Although, again, the turnout from when you went from 2004 to 2008 and looked at the turnout, there was not a big spike in turnout because of early voting. And even in the large urban counties, actually, the turnout actually went down in most large urban counties, with the exception of Franklin County. So everyone's trying, like Ed's saying, everybody's trying to figure out, how do you do this? People, started voting October 2nd. They're going to dribble in, and we had more of a rush on the first day than I expected. So how do you, in terms of strategy and message, how do you do this? I mean, this first debate will probably be important, the presidential debate, but the question lingers: what about the other two? I mean, is it if we get 25-30% of the electorate casting their ballot early?
And what does the vice presidential debate do? I mean, you really have 3 debates left over that have a national impact. If you're interested in the U.S. Senate debate, do you wait until October 18th, which is, I think, the first major political debate between those two, between Brown and Mandel?
Well, what I want to do is jump into another state issue that people are going to see throughout the state on the ballot, and that's issue 2, which is the redistricting issue for congressional and legislative districts. So, Steve, explain briefly to us, how do we pick those districts? How do we redistrict now? And then how is this amendment going to change that?
I'm not sure I can do it briefly. I'll do my best. The process we have now is a political process entirely. It depends on which party is in charge. So the Republicans are in charge. They drew the districts, both congressional districts and legislative districts. The legislature has failed repeatedly to compromise, to change this system. So out come, I call them the goo-goos, good government types, the League of Women Voters, others, some academics from Ohio State. They crafted a ballot amendment. It is a very long ballot amendment. I have it here somewhere. Basically, their pitch is, we are going to have a selection process that results in a citizen panel, 12 people, 4 Republicans, 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 3 independents. And the selection process involves appeals court judges, and I mean, it's a Rube Goldberg contraption, in my opinion. But the end result would be ostensibly an independent citizens panel that would draw the lines based on guideposts, the compactness, competitiveness. There would be
keeping communities together.
Right, and
no more gerrymandering. Well, not as much gerrymandering.
Right. Some
really?
of the. Well,
really?
That's the idea.
So all right.
It's
so my
a political
question
process to begin with.
Is the cure?
You're drawing political boundaries. To take politics out of political boundaries, I mean, it's not a perfect world. It's not going to be a perfect world. To say that you're going to have judges who, in fact, run for election. I mean, let's start there. If you're talking about appeals court judges, circuit appeals court judges in Ohio, they're on the ballot. In fact, they run partisan races. They don't run as nonpartisan candidates. All you have to do is take a look at the ballot you're going to look at now, and you'll see familiar faces and familiar names running for office. It's Jennifer Hensel and Claire Dickinson.
Well, but this
are
is
on the ballot
and
here
this is
time.
one of the opponents to this issue are saying that this is a problem in terms of separation of powers, and that this amendment would impact that.
Well, the State Bar Association does not like this.
Is uncomfortable with it.
And the association that represent appeals court judges are very uncomfortable with it for obvious reasons. I mean, as Ed is saying, judges in Ohio run in partisan primaries. They run in nonpartisan general elections. Well, you get a panel of 8 appeals court judges that are making the decisions about who's going to draw the lines. I mean, with all due respect to Wayne Jones and Alex Arshikoff, our respective party chairmen, I mean, you don't think they're going to be on the phone?
And who picks the appeals judges to be on the panel?
But what about
the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court, which run partisan races.
What about the frustration, though, of people who are behind this Voters First Ohio? That the lines as they are drawn now are so political that it doesn't do the state justice.
Well, I agree that the process that we have now is flawed. I don't know if this is the best alternative, but in my area in West Akron, I'm now going to have a congresswoman from Cleveland that who's representing me, and I'm like, what does she care about Akron? Right. She represents Cleveland. And so that is a ridiculous district. For anyone who's not familiar, it comes from Cleveland and has a little sliver that just comes down and then encompasses part of Akron. And so that doesn't make any sense.
And that's hardly the only one like that.
No,
well, and what we want to do, though, is we want to continue to try to make sense out of this issue, but we're going to take this part of our discussion to newsnight.net.
For more NewsNight content, including extended discussions, full interviews, and the chance to speak your mind about the issues, join us online at newsnight.net.
Well, I hope you will take advantage of our extended discussion on newsnight.net because some of our most interesting observations happen at that location. Anyway, we're back here, and I wanted to talk about Summit County because there have been some changes in precinct numbers and locations. Steph, how's that going to impact voters here in the county?
Well, I would say that people should be on the lookout for orange cards that are about this big, about 5 by 7. They're going to be coming in the mail, or you may have gotten them already. That's going to tell you what your new precinct is, what your new polling location is. You may also have a new congressional district and a new state house district, and you may be voting for candidates who you are not used to voting for. So that's a lot of changes. I think I know that there are a lot of groups out there that are concerned about voter confusion because of all these changes. What happened is the Summit County Elections Board voted to decrease precincts and decrease polling locations between the primary and the general election in order to save money. Okay. So we've gone down 43 polling locations, which is about a 22% reduction, and 177 precincts.
Wow.
So
what happens if somebody goes to the wrong location?
Well, they are going to try to do what they can, but the best way for you to be sure you are voting in the right place is to keep that card. And that way, if you're going to vote on Election Day, you'll know for sure where you need to go. You also can go to the Summit County website, Summit County Election Board's website, which is www.summitcountyboe.com. You can plug your name in, and that will also remind you of where you need to go to vote.
Under Ohio law, we should remind everyone, if you vote in the wrong precinct, your vote does not count. This is the subject of yet another federal lawsuit, which we love in Ohio. We love our lawsuits over voting, over provisional voting, and it has the crux of the suit has to do with whether a poll worker is allowed or should tell you the proper precinct to go to. And the presumption in this legal challenge is that basically the presumption is that it is the poll worker's responsibility to direct you to the right precinct. If you do not show up in the right precinct, the presumption would be that it's poll worker error, therefore your vote should count. So that is the lawsuit that's being brought by, I think, the SEIU. It's a union-backed lawsuit. But this is another fight how it will be resolved and whether it will be resolved in time, who knows?
Only in Ohio do you actually have lawsuits that say that, number one, you have to order government employees for a day to help people if they get something wrong. And if people do get something wrong, instead of helping them, you have to take their vote even though it's not where it's supposed to be. So only in Ohio does that stuff. I mean, the thing it highlights is the fact that all these last-minute changes, in all these last-minute moves, I mean, the fact that you still have a pending federal lawsuit that economists has clearly said, go ahead and do what I told you to do, work it out on appeal, but follow my orders, and they were going to fight him on that. But you know, the fact that you have this stuff literally going up to days before it, it's an incredibly complicated thing to read, to update records and do something like that. Even though you're computerized, it's not the easy, simple fix of just hitting one button and doing this. It's incredibly time-consuming. It's incredibly expensive. This is our money going in to pay for this. It's just you would think that there would be a common-sense solution saying, you know what, whatever it is, 60 days out, that's the way it is. Fix it the next time around.
Well, as our former Secretary of State, Ken Blackwell, used to say, in a close election, Ohio could be within the margin of litigation.
Well, I'd like to jump to some of the more interesting races that voters in Summit County are going to see. And Steph, you've been covering one in terms of the charter amendment for Akron. Tell us about that one.
Right. Well, the Akron City Council voted to put a charter amendment on the ballot that would increase the terms for ward council people from 2 to 4 years. And eventually, over a period of time, then we would end up with all of the council members, both ward and at-large, and the mayor on the ballot at the same time.
All for 4-year terms.
Right. And the city argues that this would save money because it would do away with the need for the off-year elections. And then the other change it would make is it would limit the amount of raises for council members and the mayor, tying it to the Office of Labor Statistics in terms of the raises in the private sector. So, but you do actually have an organized group out there that is working against this. They have signs. They're having a meeting, I believe, tonight at Mount Olive Baptist Church, I think at 6 o'clock. Put in a little plug for them, I guess. And they are arguing that this is not trying to save money, that what this is really doing is, political. It is trying to help the people who are pushing for it. The mayor and the council president are the ones who originally proposed this change. Voters have rejected an increase in the terms for ward council people in the past. And Bruce Kilby, it's worth mentioning too, that he challenged this in the Supreme Court, arguing that the language was not clear enough on what the ultimate outcome of the issue would be, but he did. They did elect not to take that up, and so it will be on the ballot as the council originally proposed it.
It's pretty hard to argue, to me anyway, that ward councilmen in Akron spend all their time campaigning because they have these 2-year terms. That argument is, well, that dog doesn't hunt as far as I'm concerned. But the other argument here has to do with the at-large members of council running in the off year.
Right.
And this provides cover, if you will, for an at-large member of council like, say, Mike Williams.
Like Mike Williams.
To run
or like Linda Mobian, who's also thought of as always running in a safe
to run for mayor.
Yeah.
Right.
And still retain their seat.
And still retain their seat. So there is more than a little politics involved in this. And it also, the mayor argues that, all this language is crammed together because of the way the charter is written. But it does have a lot of moving parts in one amendment, with throwing the salary in there and.
Well, before we get to some of the school issues that I want to talk about, I do want to mention the last issue on the ballot is 73, Children's Services.
Children's Services, it's kind of a renewal and reset levy, very important for them. So, I don't know, what you say about this. Even though the times are tough, I think the argument on their behalf would be, no matter how tough the times are, do you really want to say you don't want to help kids in need? Right. Well, so, that comes down to that argument. I
think this is the majority of their money, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Like 60% of their budget.
60% of their revenue. And, in a recessionary time, often the demand for social services increases when times are bad, right. Which it makes sense. I will say that, we've had periods of turmoil at CSB. That appears to be behind us. and it looks like they've sort of straightened things out, at least in terms of their union management relations. And there have been controversies over individual cases in the past. So the CSB seems to have righted itself in recent years, which is a good
Plus,
thing.
they've done some belt tightening. So, I mean, they've trimmed the staff, et cetera, et cetera. So they're using their money wisely as far as I can see. I do want to talk about some of the school issues in the county. And, of course, the first one would be Akron Public Schools.
61.
Excuse me?
61.
Issue 61.
That's when you're
Thank
looking
you.
at the number.
But it's a 7.9 mil levy, and I would remind viewers that last year at this time they had a 5.5 mil levy on the ballot that failed by less than 200 votes. So they've waited a year now. How does this seem to resonate with voters?
This is a do or die levy. I think even if it passes, you're looking at probably around $12 million worth of cuts anyway.
Even with the new money? Even
with the new money. And I think the fear is that Akron has done its share of belt tightening. The district has made cuts. And I think the fear is that you're going to begin to really hit the classroom instruction. There's no way to do this. They can get some health benefit reductions. But if push comes to shove, you're going to have to lay off teachers.
Mm-hmm. Well, and right now, if I'm not mistaken, aren't the teachers' union and the school district at an impasse in terms of contract negotiations?
They are.
Yeah, they're going to an arbitrator to try and figure out what they do and go from there. It's also important to note that they passed a budget that was $4 million out of whack. Just by necessity, and they know they're going to get their hands slapped over it. But the budget's already out of whack. To Steve's point, 7.9 doesn't fill the hole. The reality is, and there was a great deal of back and forth on this when they were trying to figure out how much they were going to ask for. Should they ask for what they need, or should they ask for what they think they can get?
Well, hold that thought, because I do want to continue this discussion, and we will take it now to NewsNite.net.
On NewsNite.net, we cover a broader range of topics than we can on the air in 27 minutes. Be part of the conversation on our Facebook page and at NewsNite.net.
We are back for our final segment here on Newsnight, and I want to ask the panel about what they think are some of the interesting races here in Summit County.
I say probate court judge. And in terms of local races, I think it carries with it, I think, 25 jobs, and you've got two really well-known candidates on the ballot there, and so I think that's definitely one to watch.
And they've hacked each other to death before with big battle axes, so now they can both go at it again.
They're not buddies.
Although, you know what, it's not as brutal as it was when they were running against each other the first time.
For common pleas.
Right.
Yeah. The parties are traditionally very interested in probate court. It handles very sensitive matters, obviously, but it also has more patronage than the common pleas court. So you have two sitting common pleas court judges, both experienced. Allison McCarty, the Republican, Eleanor Marsh Stormer, the Democrat.
Because let's set this up, because the current probate court judge, who was appointed to that position, opted not to run.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Are we going to leave it at that?
Well, it was clearly, I'm told, over a patronage hire. I don't exactly know who, but apparently the Republican chairman, Alex Arshenkoff, wanted somebody hired in the court, and McKinney said no, and the way it works, you don't cross Arshenkoff in a situation like that, and that was it.
The fact of the matter is, this will be kind of I think it's a flip a coin race. I think that
they're both well-known, good jurists.
Both of them would probably yell at us for saying this, but I think they both have equally respectful records.
They do. They do. They're both experienced judges, no doubt about it.
What are the races?
Well, maybe we'll get a surprise here. I mean, a lot of these offices, it's really hard to break through the clutter when you're down, as you're saying about the school issue. But we have the engineers race, the incumbent Alan Brubaker, Democrat, and the Republican challenger Bruce Robinson. And it's interesting because Brubaker, of course, fought tooth and nail to keep the engineer in elected office. Against his own party, Russ Pry wanted to fold this office into the executive's office.
Against the full weight of the Beacon Journal editorial board.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that really was a tough thing.
I bet you lost sleep over that.
I think, you know, this Bruce Robinson is an interesting guy. Runs his own firm. He's sharp. He's aggressive. So that could be an upset.
Yeah.
How about the sheriff's race?
Well, I think that's done. I think the Republican candidate just, you know, when you look at the tenor of political races now, I think 2 years ago it was Sutton and Ganley, and Ganley got smeared, and nothing came of that. I don't know if these charges and the rest of this stuff at the University of Akron sticks against a Republican candidate, but you know, right now you see a lot of signs. I live in a Republican area of the county, and I don't see a ton of. I see signs for Steve Barry. I don't see a lot of signs for.
Randy Rivers.
Randy
But you also have a seated Republican sheriff who has endorsed the Democrat, correct?
I was just getting ready to say, people make a lot out of Drew Alexander being a Republican. I think Drew Alexander was just as tight with the Democrats as he was Republican.
He's a former Democrat.
Well, but he's more nonpartisan than anything else. Yeah. I think he built relationships based on one-on-one people relationships, and not whether there's a D or an R at the end of the name, and that used to drive Arshenkoff crazy. But the fact of the matter is, Alexander was a big enough politician that he didn't need that garbage.
Yeah, this was a very convoluted chain of events. But you have an incumbent Republican who chose not to run. You had a successor in waiting, a Democrat, who that chose not to run. And so you've got two inexperienced. Neither one of these guys, Steve Barry or Randy Rivers, has run for political office before.
No, but they've got law enforcement experience. So
I'm not
both
saying
of them do that.
absolutely.
So,
they're
political
qualified.
experience, I think you're right.
Both of them are perfectly qualified to be sheriff. They have no political background. So Randy Rivers runs into this complaint at Akron U over sexual harassment, and I agree. I mean, whether he's guilty or not guilty or whatever, I mean, that's been enough to effectively.
How do you overcome
I think at this point in the career, I think at this point in the campaign, it absolutely torpedoed him.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you three for coming in and sharing your insights. It's always great to sit at the table with you. Steve, Steph, and Ed,
we didn't talk about the common police court race between Judge Michael and O'Brien. Do I have to do that on WAKR?
You're going to have to do that because, unfortunately, we are out of time.
Can you come in with me when we do that?
I would love to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you for joining us on NewsNite.